Flight 329 from Dallas to New York was full. Business travelers, families on vacation, everyone was tired and just wanted to get home. That's when he stepped on board. A man in a sharp navy suit, walking with his chin held high like he owned the plane. On his chest was a shiny badge that read, Aviation Compliance Inspector, Federal Division. The passengers seemed impressed, but the cabin crew, they exchanged confused looks. No inspection was scheduled. Something about the way this guy moved just felt wrong, and their professional instincts went on high alert. Maya Lauren, the senior flight attendant known for her keen eye, approached him with a polite smile. She asked if she could quickly verify his credentials with ground operations, a standard procedure. But instead of the calm cooperation she expected from a real official, his eyes narrowed. He snapped that she was unauthorized to question him and that he was there to observe the crew secretly. In that instant, Maya's stomach dropped. His tone wasn't that of a regulator, it was the tone of a bully. As boarding continued, this inspector started parading up and down the aisle. He stared down attendants as they worked, micromanaged passengers on how they stowed their bags, and even scolded a mother for helping her child buckle up. At first, no one said a word, but a heavy unease began to fill the cabin. From the galley, Maya watched him, thinking that no real compliance officer she had ever met acted so aggressively toward paying customers. When the captain came out of the cockpit to greet everyone, the inspector cut him off mid-aisle. He loudly criticized the crew for what he called sloppy boarding and threatened to file a negative report. The captain calmly replied that no inspection had been announced for Flight 329. The man just smirked and said inspectors do and always give advance warning. But Maya saw the captain's jaw tighten. He wasn't buying this act any more than she was. Once the seatbelt sign turned off, the inspector didn't settle down. He ramped up his performance, stopping at random rows to lecture people about headphone volume, upright seats, and obscure federal protocols. He even threatened to have a teenager removed from the aircraft for asking a simple question. Whispers started to spread among the passengers. This guy felt wrong, rude, and completely power-drunk. Maya knew the tension would explode into panic if she didn't get answers fast. Maya quietly gathered her team in the rear galley. She explained that real federal inspectors always check in with the captain first. They never harass passengers, and they certainly don't refuse to have their credentials verified. She pointed out that the font on his badge looked slightly off, and that operations had just confirmed there was no notice of any inspection. A junior attendant nervously asked, "So does that mean he's a fake?" Maya had to admit it. Yes, it looked like he was impersonating an aviation official, but they still didn't know why. Determined to end this, Maya returned to the aisle. In a steady voice, she told the inspector that for everyone's safety, she needed to log his badge number with the airline's operations center. He immediately bristled, accusing her of obstructing a federal review. He leaned in so close she could smell his cologne and hissed, "You have no idea who you're dealing with." Her calm reply that this was exactly what she intended to find out drew the attention of several passengers nearby. Instead of complying, the imposter shoved past her and stormed toward row 8, where a nervous man sat alone. He ordered the man to stand up and hand over his phone, claiming he'd seen him texting during takeoff. The passenger was frightened and insisted he hadn't broken any rules. Maya immediately stepped between them, firmly telling the so-called inspector to stop intimidating people and return to his seat. That's when other voices from nearby rows started calling out, demanding he prove who he was. The captain quietly called Maya to the cockpit. The news from operations was definitive. No compliance officer was assigned to their flight. The badge number she'd sent didn't exist in any federal database. As the weight of those words sank in, the captain's expression hardened with resolve. Maya felt a surge of adrenaline. This man wasn't just an imposter. His unpredictable behavior was now a serious threat to everyone on board. With a quick plan in place, Maya returned to the cabin. The imposter was now towering over a father in row 10, accusing him of arguing with the crew and threatening to put him on a no-fly list. This was the breaking point. Several passengers stood up, demanding he show his credentials to the captain. For the first time, his confident mask slipped. His eyes darted around the cabin as he sensed his control starting to crumble. Maya, now backed by the captain standing right behind her, spoke in a clear, authoritative tone. She told the imposter he was required to accompany them to the rear galley for a private discussion. He refused, insisting he outranked everyone on the plane. The captain calmly invoked his legal authority as pilot in command, warning that any further refusal would be treated as interference with flight operations. Under the weight of dozens of staring eyes, the imposter finally, grudgingly, walked with them to the back of the aircraft. In the galley, away from the passengers, the captain stood squarely in front of him. "Who do you really work for? Why are you impersonating a federal official?" After a few shaky attempts to bluff, the imposter's shoulders slumped. He muttered that he hadn't meant to cause any trouble, claiming he only wanted to check on someone. Maya's blood ran cold. People don't fake federal badges just to say hello. Under pressure, he confessed everything. His ex-wife was on the flight. He had lost custody of their child in a recent court battle, and he thought that if he acted like an authority figure, she wouldn't dare ignore him. As Maya listened to his trembling excuses about being desperate and hurt, she felt a mix of anger and disbelief. He had chosen to terrorize an entire plane full of strangers instead of seeking help like a rational person. When Maya asked where his ex-wife was seated, he quietly answered, "Row 22. She realized the woman had been sitting there the whole time, completely unaware that her unstable ex-husband was just a few rows away, playing this dangerous game. Maya immediately radioed the front, had another attendant discreetly move the woman to a safer seat near the front of the cabin, and only then gently explained what her ex-husband had done. Back in the galley, the imposter suddenly tried to push past Maya, repeating that he just needed a few minutes to talk to his ex-wife. Maya spread her arms, blocking the narrow aisle. "You lost the right to move freely the moment you impersonated a federal officer," she told him firmly. Just then, a tall, off-duty firefighter who had been watching from row 17 stepped forward. In a calm but unshakable voice, he said that if the man tried to force his way again, he would restrain him himself. That finally made the imposter freeze. A moment later, the captain arrived with a set of onboard security restraints. With practiced coordination, he and the firefighter guided the imposter into an empty rear row. They secured his wrists with professional-grade zip ties as he weakly protested that it was all a misunderstanding. But no one believed him anymore. He slumped back in his seat, finally realizing he had trapped himself. A wave of relief washed over the cabin when the captain announced over the PA that a disruptive passenger had been safely secured. Passengers who had been tense for nearly an hour finally exhaled. Maya moved quietly from row to row, reassuring people and checking on the ex-wife who was still shaking. As the plane descended toward New York, airport security was already waiting at the gate. The imposter tried one last time to complain that he hadn't actually harmed anyone. The captain reminded him that impersonating a federal officer and interfering with a flight crew were serious federal offenses. When the wheels touched down, the passengers burst into spontaneous applause, grateful to the crew that had kept them safe. Uniformed police and federal agents boarded immediately, walking straight to the restrained imposter. He looked pale and defeated as they led him up the aisle. As they passed the front, his ex-wife saw him one last time. But this time she wasn't afraid. She just shook her head and turned away, finally able to breathe. After everyone had deplaned, several passengers stopped to personally thank Maya and the captain for their bravery. Once the plane was empty, Maya stood alone in the galley, letting the weight of the ordeal settle. The captain walked over and told her quietly that she had handled everything with exceptional courage. As she finally stepped off the aircraft, she realized that sometimes the greatest heroes aren't the ones with badges or authority, but the ones who stand up for what's right, thousands of feet in the air. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. Stay safe out there.